Welcome back to the quiet side of the planet. Tonight, we listen not to the winds above us, but to the heartbeat below, the slow, ancient rhythm of the earth itself. Every grain of sand, every layer of stone, is a memory written in silence. The ground beneath your bed tonight has traveled across oceans, collided with continents, and carried the weight of billions of lives before yours. Let your breathing slow and feel the calm gravity of time settling around you. This is not just geology, it's the story of how the Earth learned to dream. Chapter 1: The Planet That Never Sleeps. Even as you close your eyes tonight, the Earth beneath you is moving. Slowly, silently, continents drift apart, mountains rise and crumble, and deep within the crust, molten rivers stir like thoughts beneath the surface of a dream. We tend to think of our planet as something still solid, dependable, unmoving. But in truth, the Earth has never rested. For over 4.5 billion years, it has been whispering, shifting, reshaping itself in an endless, slow-motion dance. Beneath your pillow lies a planet alive with motion. The ground you walk on, this quiet, ancient crust, floats upon something far from peaceful: the asthenosphere, a soft, partially molten layer that moves like warm honey. Above it drift the continents, vast slabs of rock known as tectonic plates, gliding at the speed your fingernails grow. To us, that pace feels eternal, but to the planet, it's just a heartbeat. Imagine the Pacific Plate, an immense raft of basalt sliding beneath the lighter granite crust of Asia. As it dives downward, the friction melts it into magma, which someday will rise again as fire through a volcano's throat. Creation and destruction folded into one continuous breath. The Himalayas, too, are not ancient in geological terms. They are still rising millimeter by millimeter each year as India presses into Eurasia. Somewhere in the deep, dark roots of that collision, pressure turns old seabed into shining crystal. Metamorphism, the alchemy of time and heat. What was once sand becomes quartzite. What was once mud becomes slate. Even mountains have memories. Listen closely, and perhaps you can feel it. The slow expansion, the stretching, the subduction of entire continents beneath your feet. Every earthquake, every volcanic plume is just the planet breathing out. Every ripple in the crust is the Earth shifting position in its sleep. It's humbling, isn't it, to realize that while we spend our days chasing minutes and hours, the Earth measures time in eons. A human life is a blink, a civilization, a single exhale. And yet, we belong to this rhythm, to this ancient pulse that continues, whether we notice or not. So tonight, as you rest, imagine the Earth beneath you still moving endlessly, without effort. The continents drift, the mountains rise and fall, and the ground itself hums softly, steadily, a lullaby of stone and time. Beneath this restless crust lies another story, one of heat, pressure, and glowing creation. A world of fire that dreams in magma. Chapter 2: Fire Beneath the Crust. Beneath the calm crust you stand on, the Earth glows, a molten sea of motion, unseen, unhurried, eternal. It is a world that never cools completely, where heat from the planet's birth still lingers, trapped like a secret ember beneath miles of solid stone. This is the mantle, a slow, churning ocean of rocks so hot that it flows, yet so dense that it moves with the patience of centuries. Every swirl, every convection current down there is a whisper of creation, waiting for its moment to rise. Deep inside, pressure squeezes atoms until they glow. Iron, nickel, and silicon form impossible bonds, melting and reforming in endless cycles. Where the pressure releases, magma climbs upward not in chaos, but in rhythm, as if the earth itself is exhaling through volcanoes. From the calm depths of the mantle, fire rises to the surface, softening mountains, shaping continents, and renewing the world. It is here that new crust is born along mid-ocean ridges, where the planet quietly gives birth to land. The Atlantic Ocean, for instance, widens by about 2 centimeters each year. It sounds trivial until you realize that every inch of new seafloor was once glowing magma, cooled by the cold embrace of the abyss. Creation, hidden beneath stillness, this underworld of heat also drives destruction. When magma finds weakness, it breaks through violently, beautifully. Volcanoes are the planet's language of renewal. They burn, they purge, and they create new stone for life to stand upon. From the black sands of Hawaii to the obsidian flows of Iceland, the earth writes poetry in lava, and even in its fury, there is purpose. Volcanic gases build our atmosphere. Ash nourishes future soil. Basalt plains become the foundation for forests yet to come. It's a strange kind of gentleness, destruction as birth, chaos as balance. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself deep below, where gravity presses on every side and the air becomes stone. The magma glows in slow motion, orange, gold, almost alive. It does not roar, it hums, a frequency too deep for the human ear, yet ancient enough for the soul to recognize. This is where the heartbeat of the planet begins. And as you drift towards sleep, remember, the warmth beneath your feet tonight is not random. It's the echo of the fire that built our world, a soft, steady rhythm that has never stopped burning. From this fire, the planet forged its first memories, stones that would carry its story through time. Let's listen now to the quiet language of rocks. Chapter 3, Stones That Remember. If the earth could speak, its voice would sound like stone, not loud, not hurried, but patient, ancient, deliberate. Every mineral, every grain of rock carries a memory of heat and ocean, of pressure and time, of the silence between stars when our world was still cooling from creation. Close your eyes and picture the oldest places you know. A cliff face worn by wind, a riverbed of smooth pebbles, a mountain shadowed by clouds, all of them quietly remembering. Each rock you've ever held in your hand was once part of something greater, a mountain range taller than the Himalayas, a seabed that echoed with strange, extinct creatures, or the glowing crust of a newborn earth still shimmering from its birth. These stones are fragments of long-ago worlds, some formed from fire basalt, obsidian, granite, frozen remnants of molten breath, others from water, limestone, shale, sandstone, built slowly, one grain at a time, from the quiet fall of ancient oceans, and others still metamorphic, were born again in darkness, reborn under heat and pressure, reshaped by time. Slate from clay, marble from coral, quartzite from sand, every transformation a whisper of endurance. Rocks don't age as we do. They don't decay, they transform. To them, 1,000,000 years is a heartbeat. Time passes through them like wind through leaves, changing only their texture, not their essence. When scientists split open a piece of ancient zircon crystal, they find not just a mineral but a clock. Inside its structure are atoms that tell us how long it has existed, what heat it endured, what chemistry once flowed through its molten core. It's like reading the diary of the planet, written not in words, but in isotopes. You could say geology is the Earth's form of memory. A sediment layer is a sentence, a fossil bed, a paragraph, a mountain chain, a long, unfolding chapter. Each tells of impact, eruption, erosion, rebirth, each line carved by gravity, each pause marked by silence. And if you listen, really listen, you might hear that memory hum beneath you right now. The slow crack of cooling crust, the distant rumble of plates shifting far away, the faint sigh of stone settling under the night's weight. Somewhere, deep below, new rocks are already forming, molten minerals cooling into solid thought. The planet continues to write. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine the bed beneath you as part of a story billions of years old, a story that began in fire, was shaped by water, and now rests in silence. You are lying upon memory itself, and the earth, as always, remembers everything. But there was a time when that memory nearly froze, when the earth turned white and silence fell over every ocean. Let's drift there now, into the age when the world slept beneath ice. Chapter 4, When the Earth Slept Beneath Ice. There was a time long before any human eyes looked up at the moon, when the entire planet fell silent. Oceans froze from pole to equator. Mountains vanished beneath a shroud of white. The air grew thin and still. The Earth had fallen asleep. Scientists call this era Snowball Earth, a time when nearly the whole surface was locked beneath glaciers, perhaps more than once in its 4.5 billion year life. It was not merely winter, it was the deep inhale of a planet learning how to breathe again. It's strange to think that ice, not fire, was once the sculptor of our world. As the oceans solidified, sunlight could no longer warm the surface. The temperature dropped further. Ice reflected more light back into space, a perfect feedback loop of silence. The Earth entered a dream so deep it almost never woke. But even then, beneath the frozen crust, the heartbeat continued. Volcanoes still murmured under miles of ice. Tectonic plates still crept forward in slow, unseen movements. And inside the mantle, the same fire from the planet's birth still glowed. Imagine it a hidden warmth, waiting patiently under the weight of a frozen world. And eventually, that patience changed everything. Volcanic gases, carbon dioxide, methane built up over millions of years, trapped beneath the icy blanket. Then, one day, the balance tipped. The greenhouse gases thickened the air, and the planet began to thaw. A slow melt, a sigh of relief. Rivers returned. The oceans darkened and absorbed the warmth again, and the world awoke green, wet, alive. This awakening rewrote the story of life. The Great Freeze had purified the oceans, saturating them with minerals. When the thaw came, sunlight flooded in, and with it, an explosion of oxygen, of microbes, of possibilities. It was from this fragile rebirth that complex life began to evolve. So when you look out at winter tonight, or feel the chill of night air against your skin, remember this cold is not an ending. It's a pause, a breath, a way the planet remembers balance. Even the ice carries memory, tiny air bubbles locked within. Glaciers hold ancient atmospheres, the voices of climates long gone. When scientists melt and study them, they're listening to whispers from hundreds of thousands of years ago, the size of a living world still learning how to survive its own extremes. The Earth's story is not one of peace. It is one of cycles: fire, ice, and rebirth. And just like us, it changes through seasons of silence and renewal. So as you rest tonight, imagine the planet in its long, frozen slumber, its heart still glowing softly beneath the ice, waiting for the warmth to return. Because even in stillness, even in cold, the Earth has always known how to dream itself alive again. When the ice melted, the oceans spoke again, their waves carving new shapes, their minerals feeding new life. Let's drift now into the cradle of the seas, where the first whispers of life began to rise from stone. Chapter 5: The Ocean's First Whisper of Life. After the long sleep of ice, the Earth exhaled, a deep, slow breath that filled the sky with clouds and the seas with motion. The frozen surface cracked, and from those ancient wounds, warmth began to seep back into the world. The oceans, once silent and glassy, began to move again. Currents returned. Storms resumed their wandering paths, and in that restless water, chemistry awoke. Picture it, an endless grey sea under a pale sun. No fish, no coral, no colour, only minerals swirling in the newborn waves. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, simple elements carried by volcanic vents and lightning strikes, dancing together in endless combination. And then something changed. A fragile molecule folded itself in just the right way. It copied, it remembered, and for the first time in the history of the universe, matter learned to dream. This was not yet life as we know it, but it was the beginning, a soft flicker of order in a sea of chaos. Tiny structures began to trap energy from the sun, using it to build themselves, to divide, to survive. From this slow dance of chemistry came cells, simple, single, and endlessly patient. They floated for billions of years, turning sunlight into food and the planet's gases into air. The first algae released oxygen into the atmosphere, an invisible transformation that turned the skies blue. Iron in the oceans rusted, falling to the seafloor as red sediment. Layer after layer, the planet's quiet journal of awakening. Eventually, life began to collaborate. Cells joined together, sharing purpose, creating forms that could move, feel, and respond. Coral colonies, jellyfish, trilobites, all descendants of that first shimmering spark in the sea. Every breath you take tonight is a continuation of that first ocean whisper. Every heartbeat echoes the rhythm of waves against stone. If you close your eyes, you might still hear it, the soft bubbling of an ancient sea beneath all the noise of modern life. It's the sound of continuity, the sound of the earth remembering how to live again. Life was not born in noise or brilliance. It began in stillness, in the dim light beneath ancient water, and from that calm, it learned to rise, slowly, patiently, toward the surface and the stars. And as life grew, it began to leave marks. Shells, bones, fossils, footprints pressed into mud that would one day turn to stone. Let's drift now into the age of mountains and memory, where the continents began to move, and the earth learned how to sculpt itself. Chapter 6: The Moving Continents. The earth, though ancient, has never been still. Even as you rest tonight, continents are quietly gliding beneath your feet, a slow ballet of stone across an ocean of fire. To the human eye, they seem immovable, eternal, but to time itself, they flow like sleep. Each continent drifts a few centimeters every year, a heartbeat in geologic rhythm. Yet over millions of years, these tiny shifts write epic stories. Oceans open and close, mountains rise and crumble, and the world reshapes its face again and again. It all began with heat, the restless energy of the mantle beneath the crust. Here, molten rock circulates like breath, pushing up at weak points, spreading the seafloor apart and dragging the continents along for the ride. This grand motion is called plate tectonics, and it's one of the most beautiful, invisible forces in nature. There are no gears, no engines, no thunderous explosions, just warmth and patience. When plates collide, mountains rise, like wrinkles on the skin of an aging planet. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Alps, all born from the gentle but unyielding push of stone against stone. When plates pull apart, the earth opens her veins, magma rises, cools, and solidifies into new crust. The ocean floor expands, a quiet, endless act of creation. And when plates slide past one another, the friction releases energy, sometimes as a shiver, sometimes as an earthquake, a reminder that even in silence, the planet is alive. If you could listen closely enough, beneath the hum of your room, beyond the sound of your breathing, you might hear the faintest murmur of that movement, a subsonic song, ancient and patient, resonating through every rock and root. It is the earth dreaming of its own shape. For billions of years, continents have gathered and scattered like drifting memories. Once, all land was one a supercontinent called Pangaea. Forests stretched unbroken from pole to pole. The same winds touched every tree, the same seas kissed every shore. But slowly, Pangaea began to drift apart. The Atlantic opened, the Pacific deepened, and the familiar map we know today began to unfold. Every mountain, every coastline, every valley is a frozen wave of that movement, each one a word in the planet's slow, unending poem. And yet, this motion is far from random. It keeps the planet alive. Without tectonics, there would be no carbon cycle, no renewal of minerals, no life as we know it. Volcanoes release carbon dioxide, plants absorb it, oceans store it, and the cycle continues. Even destruction feeds creation, as if the planet itself practices balance. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the continents slowly gliding beneath you, ancient rafts of stone drifting across a glowing sea. Every inch they move, they carry history with them. Fossils, forests, the dust of civilizations yet unborn. The world has always been in motion, and so, quietly, are you. But where these plates meet, where fire and water touch, new landscapes are born, islands, mountains, and chains of stone. Let's follow one such creation and listen to the islands rising from the sea. Chapter 7: Islands Rising from Fire. Far out in the open ocean, where the sea stretches endlessly and stars fall into the horizon, something stirs beneath the waves. It begins with a tremor, a soft push of molten rock from deep within the mantle, where pressure has been building for centuries. The crust cracks, lava finds its way upward, and the ocean begins to boil from below. Most eruptions happen unseen, hidden beneath kilometers of salt water and silence. But sometimes, the Earth's breath breaks the surface, and a new island is born. This is how Hawaii began, and Iceland, and every volcanic island that rises alone in the middle of the sea. They are children of the planet's heartbeat, emerging from vents called hotspots, where heat pierces the crust and spills into the ocean. Each eruption piles layers of rock upon rock until one day the fire finally meets the air. What appears on the surface is raw, black, and lifeless. Lava still steaming in the rain, smoke drifting like breath over a newborn landscape. And yet, this is how life begins again. Give it time. Rain will fall, ash will crumble into soil, seeds carried by wind or bird will take root in the cracks, and from that desolation, green will return. The earth, it seems, never stops making room for life. Each island is a page in that story, written in magma, revised by wind, and softened by rain. In 1,000 years, a volcano's slope might become a forest. In 1,000,000, it might sink beneath the waves again, its peaks becoming coral reefs for fish to call home. Even in disappearance, it continues to give. When you stand on an island and feel the ground vibrate softly beneath your feet, you are standing on the newest part of the planet, land that didn't exist in the time of your ancestors, a world that literally rose to meet you. That's what makes islands feel sacred. They are proof that creation is not over, that the planet is still writing. Some nights, satellites catch the faint glow of volcanoes erupting in the dark Pacific. They burn like candles in an endless sea. Small, steady, fragile lights against the vastness of night. And somehow, that feels familiar, like the earth is mirroring us, our tiny sparks of life flickering against the cosmic ocean. As you breathe tonight, imagine standing at the edge of such an island. Warm breeze, the scent of salt and smoke, the sound of waves folding themselves endlessly against new stone. Beneath your feet, the planet hums, not in words, but in warmth. That hum has always been there, in magma, in the tide, in the pulse of every living thing that came after. From these fiery islands, life grew more complex, evolving, diversifying, rising onto land, and with it came new patterns, written not in fire or water, but in living memory itself. Let's drift now into the story of life's expansion, from ocean to shore, from silence to song. Chapter 8, When Life Learned to Walk on Land. For billions of years, the oceans had been enough. They were warm, full, and generous, a cradle that never stopped rocking life to sleep. But eventually, something stirred beneath those waves, a quiet longing, a need to reach toward the light, the shoreline, that thin, shimmering boundary between sea and stone, became the next frontier. It began with green, tiny algae clinging to rocks where waves broke and sprayed. Each tide brought nutrients, warmth, and the breath of air. Each retreat left them stranded just for a moment, until they learned to survive that moment. And so began one of the most beautiful transitions in Earth's story, the day life decided to walk. Plants came first, They learn to draw water up from their roots, to catch sunlight with leaves, and to weave air and light into food. With them came forests, ferns as tall as towers, trees with roots that split stone. They built the world's first shade, and the air began to fill with oxygen once more. Insects followed, delicate, armored, endlessly curious. Then came amphibians, creatures that still carried the memory of the sea in their blood, but longed for the open air. Their limbs, awkward at first, grew stronger with every generation. And slowly, Earth began to echo with new sounds. The rustle of leaves, the hum of wings, the heartbeat of movement across solid ground. Imagine the silence before that first step. A creature half fish, half dream, lifting itself onto land for the first time. Its skin glistens in the sunlight, its lungs, uncertain, taste air, and somewhere deep within its cells, the memory of salt water still sings. That small motion, that trembling, defiant breath, was the beginning of everything that would follow. Forests, mammals, birds, us. The land was harsh. There was no shelter from the sun, no easy food, no certainty of survival. But life has always been persistent. It endures not because it is strong, but because it is curious. Every footprint in ancient mud, every fossilized bone and leaf is proof of that quiet courage. Each one says, "I was here, I tried," and the earth, in return, remembered them all, pressing their stories into stone, layer by layer, so that even now we can still read them if we listen gently enough. Close your eyes and imagine the first forests, humid air, heavy with scent and mist, the hum of insects rising with the dawn, the sound of rain falling on leaves for the very first time. The world had color now, the greens of ferns, the deep browns of bark, the amber glint of sunlight through canopy, and above it all, a sense of something newly awake, the earth breathing life through its own lungs. As you rest tonight, know that your every breath carries the same air that once filled the first fern, the first amphibian, the first creature brave enough to leave the ocean. You are the continuation of that quiet courage, life remembering how to explore. From this living land, the planet began to sculpt new wonders, mountains that reached higher, rivers that carved deeper, continents that shifted to new rhythms. Let's drift now into the long patience of stone and listen to the rise and fall of mountains through time. Chapter 9: The Rise and Fall of Mountains. There are moments in the planet's history when the Earth itself seems to exhale, and from that breath, mountains are born. They rise not in an instant, but in an unthinkably slow unfolding. Stone pressed against stone, continents colliding in a deep, steady rhythm. To us, mountains are stillness, but in truth, they are motion made visible, a frozen wave caught in mid-crest. Imagine the ground beneath you, not solid, but alive, its roots stretching down hundreds of kilometers into the mantle. When plates meet, they do not shatter, they bend, wrinkle, and lift. Each fold of rock is the echo of a collision older than language. The Himalayas, for instance, began when India drifted into Asia at the speed your fingernails grow. That gentle push, carried across tens of millions of years, raised Everest into the sky, a mountain so high its summit still carries the fossils of ancient seashells. Every peak you've ever seen was once the bottom of an ocean. Every stone that towers above the clouds was once cradled in darkness, waiting for its turn to breathe the open air. But mountains do not live forever. Rain, wind, and ice are patient sculptors. They grind and polish, turning mighty ridges into valleys, valleys into plains. Even the strongest cliffs eventually bow to time. What crumbles from their faces feeds the rivers. What the rivers carry nourishes the soil, and what grows upon that soil feeds life again. Nothing in nature is lost, it only changes form. The dust of mountains becomes the breath of forests, and the forests, in turn, anchor new soil that will one day rise again. The circle continues, quietly, beautifully. If you stand on a mountain at dusk and listen closely, you can almost hear it, a sound that isn't quite a sound, a hum in the stone, a memory in the air. It's the rhythm of erosion and renewal, the heartbeat of the earth measured not in seconds, but in centuries. There's something humbling about that, to realize that every ridge and valley we know is temporary, that permanence is only an illusion, and that change, slow, graceful, unstoppable, is the only constant the planet has ever known. Mountains are the lungs of the earth. They call clouds to gather, rain to fall, rivers to form. They guide the weather, shape the wind, and cradle the ecosystems that bloom upon their slopes. In their quiet endurance, they remind us that strength need not be loud, that resilience is simply the art of standing still while everything else moves around you. As you rest tonight, imagine lying at the foot of such a mountain. The air is thin and cold, but filled with silence that feels eternal. The stars rest upon its shoulders like snow, and beneath you, the planet breathes, ancient, slow, and endlessly patient. You, too, are part of that rhythm, born from dust, carved by time, and someday you will return to the same quiet earth. But even as mountains rise and fall, the sky above them has always watched, changing color, carrying storms, whispering stories through the wind. Let's look upward now and listen to the atmosphere, the fragile, shimmering veil that keeps all life asleep and safe beneath the stars. Chapter 10: The Sky That Breathes for Us. Above the tallest mountain peaks, where the air turns blue and thin, there lies an invisible ocean, one made not of water, but of light and wind and quiet. This is our atmosphere, the soft blanket that has kept life safe for billions of years. It is so delicate that, from space, it looks no thicker than a soap bubble, and yet, without it, nothing on earth could live, or dream, or sleep. The sky is not empty, it's alive, a slow, constant motion of molecules dancing between warmth and cold, rising, falling, swirling with the rhythm of day and night. Each layer of air is like a note in a symphony, from the troposphere where clouds are born, to the stratosphere where ozone guards us from the sun's fire. Higher still, atoms drift apart, and the sky fades into space, a gentle dissolving of home into infinity. This thin veil does more than keep us breathing. It remembers. Every breath of oxygen we take was shaped by the ancient forests and algae of 1 billion years ago. Every gust of wind that brushes your cheek tonight may carry the same particles once exhaled by dinosaurs, by ancestors, by the earliest green things that learn to touch the sky. It's a vast cycle of exchange. Trees give us breath, we return it to them, and together we keep the air alive. Sometimes, at dawn or dusk, the sky reveals its secrets, bands of color stretched thin by the scattering of light, reds and golds painted by dust, lifted from deserts halfway across the world. Even the quiet shimmer of twilight is not silence, but a soft conversation between sunlight and air. And within this conversation, our weather is born. Clouds gather, storms build, rain falls, all from the invisible dance of air and temperature. The same invisible hand that shapes hurricanes also carries the faintest perfume of rain through an open window. Gentle or furious, it is one spirit, flowing ceaselessly across the skin of the world. If you were to rise through the layers tonight, past the gentle winds, past the drifting clouds, into the stillness above, you would find silence so complete that even your heartbeat might seem like thunder. But from that height, looking down, you would see it all. The living earth wrapped in blue, swirling like a dream inside the dark. You'd see the weather system spinning softly, the oceans breathing mist into the air, the forests pulsing in green, and lightning flickering like neurons in a planetary brain. The earth, seen from there, is not just alive, it's awake. As you breathe in now, feel the air fill your lungs, the same air that has passed through mountains, crossed seas, and drifted between stars. It is ancient and new all at once. Every inhale is a reminder that you belong to this living cycle, to the same rhythm that keeps clouds moving, leaves trembling, and oceans alive. The atmosphere does not separate us from the universe. It connects us, a soft threshold between body and cosmos, between silence and life. And just as the sky protects life above, so does the deep earth below, where fire and metal spin endlessly at the core, forging the magnetic field that shields our fragile world. Let's drift downward now, into the heart of the planet, where the earth keeps its quiet flame alive. Chapter 11, the heart of fire beneath us, far beneath your feet, deeper than any mine, deeper than the roots of mountains. There lies a world of pure motion. It glows, unseen, like the slow heartbeat of the planet itself. This is the core, the Earth's hidden sun, a sphere of molten metal, twisting and turning under pressures so great that iron behaves like liquid light. If you could stand there, which you never could, you would see no fire, no color, only darkness, and the shimmer of heat so fierce it bends the laws of matter. The core is divided in two, a liquid outer shell and a solid inner heart, a crystal of iron and nickel that spins slightly faster than the rest of the planet. That small difference in motion creates one of the most beautiful, invisible forces in the universe. The magnetic field, it rises outward like a great, unseen shield, a cocoon of energy that wraps the entire Earth, deflecting solar radiation, guiding the auroras that shimmer over the poles, and keeping our fragile atmosphere from being swept away by the Sunday. Without this unseen guardian, the Earth would be a bare, airless rock, a memory instead of a home. The core never sleeps. It is constantly in motion, turning heat into magnetism, pressure into protection. And though we will never see it, we feel its presence every time a compass finds north, every time the aurora paints the sky with light. That glow, green, red, violet, is the breath of the core reaching into the heavens. It's humbling to think that something so distant, so deep within the earth, creates such quiet beauty above it. Over billions of years, the core has cooled slowly, like an ember fading, but never extinguished. The warmth you feel in volcanic rock, the geothermal vents that sustain life at the bottom of the sea, the slow drift of continents, all are powered by this ancient fire. Every tremor, every flicker of molten light under the crust is a message from the heart, the planet's way of saying, I am still alive. If you listen closely enough, beneath all the noise of surface life, you might hear it, a low hum, steady and eternal, vibrating through the bones of the world. That hum is the sound of home. It's the reason your compass points north, the reason the atmosphere holds, the reason life can rest without fear of the Sunday. The fire beneath us is not a threat. It is a guardian, ancient, patient, burning quietly for every living thing above. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the warmth below, miles and miles beneath stone and silence, a glow that has burned since the earth was born. It does not rush. It does not falter. It simply continues, a slow, steady pulse, beating in time with your own. You and the planet share the same rhythm, a song of heat, a memory of beginnings, a promise of endurance. And above this glowing heart, life continues to move and change. Civilizations rise, fall, and rise again, each one shaping the earth and being shaped by it. Let's drift now through time to the stories of humanity and stone, how we learned to read the planet's memory and call it home. Chapter 12, Humanity and Stone. The listeners of time. When the first humans looked up at the mountains, they must have felt both wonder and belonging. Those vast walls of stone, ancient, unmoving, mirrored something inside us, the quiet wish to endure. We came late to the Earth's story. The rocks had already written billions of pages before our arrival, yet somehow we learned to read them. We touched the veins of granite and saw the pulse of time. We held fossils in our hands and recognized the patience of life. And from that moment, we were no longer just inhabitants. We were listeners. The first shelters we built were carved into cliffs, the first tools chipped from river stones, the first fires set against the curve of cave walls. Stone was our companion, the skin of the earth beneath our fingertips. Later, we began to shape it. We stacked it into temples and tombs, cast it into roads, raised it into monuments meant to outlast our fleeting lives. Pyramids, cathedrals, stone circles aligned with the stars. Even as time wore us down, we built from the one thing that could remember longer than we could. To this day, stone is our most faithful witness. It keeps every footprint, every carving, every trace of our brief existence pressed into its memory. Through geology, we learned humility, that mountains are born and destroyed in spans longer than civilizations. Through fossils, we learned continuity, that every breath we take carries the same elements as creatures long vanished. Through the study of deep time, we learned that life is both fragile and eternal, like waves folding over the same shore again and again. Now, we build cities that glitter like constellations at night, but beneath the steel and light, the earth still whispers in stone. Every foundation rests upon ancient rock. Every skyscraper draws strength from a crust that once swam in magma and drifted through eons. Even the concrete beneath your feet is dust reborn, the pulverized memory of ancient mountains, given shape once more. Sometimes I imagine the planet watching us the way we watch clouds. It sees our empires rise and fade, our monuments crumble back into sand, our voices carried away on the wind, and yet perhaps it is not indifferent. Perhaps it listens too, feeling the tremor of our footsteps as part of its own pulse. Maybe, to the earth, we are like the breeze over a canyon wall, fleeting but beautiful while we last. Close your eyes. Beneath all the noise of the world, there is still the sound of stone, the deep, slow exhale of the planet itself. You are part of that rhythm, a small note in the grand harmony of time. You come from the dust of stars. You rest upon the dust of mountains, and someday you will return, not as an ending, but as a continuation. The stone remembers, and in that memory, you will never truly fade. But even after all these ages of fire, ice, and memory, the earth still holds more to tell. It whispers to the sky, to the sea, to us, reminding us that wonder is never finished. Let's drift now to the closing chapter, where the planet's oldest song meets the silence of the stars. Chapter 13, the dream continues. The night is quiet now. The world outside your window has gone still. But beneath that stillness, the earth is still moving, breathing, becoming. It turns gently on its axis, a slow, patient spin that has never stopped since the beginning. The same motion that brings dawn, that stirs the tides, that carries us quietly through the dark. We live on a planet that never sleeps. Even as you drift off tonight, volcanoes are whispering in the deep, ice is forming in the poles, and new minerals are crystallizing in silence, one atom at a time. From the fire of its core to the cool edge of its atmosphere, the earth is a single, living symphony. Its rhythms measured not in seconds, but in centuries. Every part of it moves together, balanced, breathing, eternal. The continents continue their slow waltz. The mountains continue to erode. The oceans continue their heartbeat of tide and moon. And above it all, the stars continue to watch, unblinking, ancient, gentle. You and I are small in that scale, but not separate from it. The calcium in your bones was forged in ancient seas. The iron in your blood was born in the heart of stars. You are the earth remembering itself, a brief, bright flicker of awareness in an endless story of stone and silence. And perhaps that's what it means to exist, to be conscious for a moment of the great, slow miracle that holds us, to feel the hum of the planet under your skin and realize you belong to it completely, peacefully, forever. As you rest, let go of the need to understand or measure. Let the weight of time soften around you. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the world's. Inhale, the tide comes in. Exhale, the tide drifts away. Everything that has ever lived and everything that will ever live moves with you in that same rhythm. You are part of the deep time of the planet, a single heartbeat in 4.5 billion years of music. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, Imagine yourself sinking gently into the Earth's memory, down through the soil, past the roots, past the bedrock, past the magma that glows like breath in the dark. There, in the quiet center of it all, the world hums softly, endlessly, a sound older than words, older than thought, the sound of the planet dreaming itself alive. And as you fall asleep, you dream with it. Good night. The earth will keep turning. The dream will continue.